Pásale a mi casa.
So during a typical day, our shift is 24 hours. So we get here at 11:45 in the morning, and then we leave the next day at 11:45. So after that, our shift's completed. But between that time, from 11:45 to 5, they're working hours. So we either inspect buildings, we make sure that the hydrants are working, that they have the right pressure and water in case we need to use them. We check that buildings are doing like that their extinguishers are up to date, that they're doing all their certs up to date, that they're following the requirements that are required in order for it to be a safe building. And then after 5, then we get to come here, and it's like our house. We do have lunch and then dinner and then breakfast. And then after 5, we have an hour of mandatory workout. So we actually work out at the gym. And then after that, then you're free to do whatever you want. Some people watch TV, some people read, some people study, some people are going to school, so they'll catch up with school. That's pretty much it, what we do in a day. And then, well, of course, the calls come in and we respond to whatever. We're in service, whether we're doing inspections or we're here. If somebody has an emergency, we leave the area and then we go to the emergency.
What do you provide?
So we are an emergency. We're combined. So we have an ambulance who actually takes care of the medical, and then we have a fire side, which is the fire department. But all of us are together. We're all certified the same way. So I could go into a fire or I could be in an ambulance. My position right now is of a driver. It's called fire suppression technician. So because I took a promotional exam to be on the fire side, I don't have to be on the ambulance, only if I have to run in charge. So most of the time I'm in a fire truck. So I provide more of the fire side. So I do the operations at a fire, like I provide the water. Our truck is a pumper, so it carries 500 gallons of water. So from there, I have to either feed off a hydrant and feed another truck, or the truck, or within the same water, I use my tank and I deposit it there. But more than anything, I'm always gonna drive to the incident, and we're always gonna be in charge of the fire side. I mean, 90% of our calls are medical, so we go and we take you, but if you need to be transported to the hospital, then that's when we call the ambulance.
What do you use math on your job?
So yeah, for my job, like in order for me to promote to driver, as a firefighter, you go and you learn your inventory, you know your truck, you know your equipment, that's all you need. And you know like hoses and what type to hose, but in reality, my job as a driver, like I have to study because I have different discharges on the truck, and every discharge has a different pressure. So I have to know how much I'm giving out, because if I give a guy 800 pressure per minute, they're gonna go crazy. So I have to know how to maneuver what line for whatever crew is on. So basically I maneuver the pressures, I have to subtract, divide, and it has to be fast. So I need to learn the rig, do scenarios constantly, so I have to do math all the time so I don't forget.
Okay. What math tools did a firefighter use in the past that are no longer used?
So with that, they used to, like, we have gates, right? We have gates, and that's how you take out the pressure. Well, now we have an automatic button that automatically gives you 80 PSI. So with 80, you know that you're set. I go to a fire, it's quick, the captain gets there, he fights the fire with 80 PSI. Before, you actually had to gate down or gate up. So still now, we still do it, but it's more like now they have a set pressure. Before, we actually had a formula. And we do use a formula, but here in El Paso, we don't have like high-rise buildings where we have to maneuver the friction laws because it's a tall building or a slow building. We kind of memorize already our area, so we know that the pressure is going to be different and you don't need as much math into it, but we do use a formula still.
Okay. Usually use a ladder?
Oh, so we have 2 different types of truck. Well, 3 different types of truck. One of them is called a ladder. And a ladder is the one where you see the ladder on top, and it's a huge white ladder. That one's called a ladder truck. Our truck carries water. So our truck is called a pumper because it has a pump and it pumps water. And then you have an aerial that has both. A ladder is usually longer, and the ladder is actually used more like manpower. So they're the ones that overhaul after a fire, that clean up, that actually ventilate the roof. They use more man tools. The fire truck that I drive is a pumper, and it has water. All we do is math, basically. So I could give water to a truck, but the truck doesn't carry, the ladder doesn't carry any water. I have to give them the water.
Okay. Do usually firemen use the pole to slide down?
Yeah. So like the older stations have a pole, and that was like because there was a lot of firemen in that station. So like for example, station 5, station 1, and 3s, they usually had like 20 guys. So in order for them to get fast, they had poles. So some of them would take the elevator, and some of them would take poles. This station is not a battalion station, so here we only have 5 people. We have 2 people in the ambulance and 3 in the fire truck, so it's too small. We don't have a fire pole here. But we are required to learn how to slide up and down the pole at the fire academy because some stations do have it still.
Okay.
Wait.
For like a while.
Do we get calls every day or? Yeah, so we're on call 24 hours. So we can't, like, I can't take off in my car and go home or go to the store. Like, once I come into work, I'm stuck here for 24 hours. So if there's an accident in my area, if there's a fire around the area, in the whole east side, I have to go. So if you call 911 for anything, even if you lock your keys in your car or water's dripping, like people call 911, so we have to go. If somebody calls 911, we can't just be like, oh, okay, no, especially if it's in our area, we go. And then if another truck is busy and they can't respond, we cover that area. So we're always on call.
Okay, what question do I have? Do you guys usually leave somebody behind here for anybody?
No. So when we go, usually we both get tapped out. So if it's an emergency, like say you call because you fell, more than anything, like once you call 911, it's an emergency. So we don't like to risk it. We'd rather be there. Even if you don't need the ambulance, you could just be like, I don't need the ambulance service. You guys can go back. But most of the calls, 98% of the calls, if you say, I scraped my knee, they're going to send both of us just in case there's nothing broken or that you don't faint or anything like that. So we all leave together.
Okay,
There.
so ¿cómo le digo?
Yeah.
Do you guys save dogs or anything?
Yeah, well, like people call us for the craziest stuff. Like if there's a cat stuck in a tree, like even though it's cliche and you just see that in books, they actually do call us. And we'll use our ladder and try to get them off. Or we actually, our battalion, which is our chief, they actually have a tank. So when there's like fires and the pets in there and they're in need of oxygen, we actually do provide oxygen to pets. So we do help pets and cats and everyone.
Yeah, one time in our apartments there were 3 people who like next to a drain, and their dog was in there because 2 kids said that it went in there, and they weren't sure if they called the firefighters or not.
Did they end up calling them?
No, they didn't. I don't know, mostly.
You don't know what happened to the dog?
No.
Who cares about the people? Just what happened.
Do you guys charge for any pet rescues?
So like on any call, like we don't charge you up front. We're not like, hey, give us your money right now. But any transport, like it depends on your insurance. It depends on what kind of service you need. But if it's just a service call where we could just help you out, like say you have a flat tire and no one's around, like people actually call us and we help out. That's why people say like they love like firemen. Like part of being a hero is not just like, oh, they go into fire buildings or whatever. It's more like we help out anybody. Like there's people that come here. We actually just have a new service that if your dog gets lost, you come to a fire station. We actually have a machine that reads and scans the microchip, and then we call the owners. So like we're very involved with the community. It's just very like we go around and we tell people like we're your fire department, the school, like especially big places like that. We're always super involved. Like for Fire Prevention Week, anything like that, and it's services that we can't charge because the city, as a city employee, like we're taking care of our city or of our community. So like all October, I don't know if you've seen the fire department at your school, but like they're gonna go tell you like this is what you do if there's a fire, safety, all that stuff. It's just more like being involved with the community.
But when people get on fire, drop down and roll?
Yeah, we actually do that. So that's why we tell you that, because you can't get rid of fire any other way. You can't blow on it. Obviously, it's too big. You can't smash it with anything. So the only way you're gonna cover yourself and actually protect yourself, it's by drop and rolling. That's how fire is gonna get away from you. It's almost like a paper when it's on fire, and you see your mom. What does she do? She wants to step on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's because you're smothering it. That's what you try to do with your clothes and stuff. So you're just smothering yourself.
So, are there some fires that are not that powerful?
Yeah, well, there's different types of fires. Like there could be a residential fire, there could be just a shed fire, but our job is more like trying to prevent it from going to a different, so we could save your house, we're going to try to save your house. But if it's already gone, like we're not going to make you guys risk your life, or we're not going to risk our life and go in there if we can't save the house anymore. Like you risk a lot to save a lot. But if there's material stuff in there, that an insurance or stuff, it's going to be something that's not as valuable as your own life. So we won't go in there. There's different strategies. It's called defensive and offensive. Offensive is when the fire and the captain's the one that makes that call. Like if it's not very dangerous, we go in there, we search, we rescue. If it's very dangerous, we stay outside. If there's chemicals inside, if it's like the Home Depot or Walmart, we stay outside and we fight the fire through the outside. We don't go inside.
Okay. Do you guys get paid from the government?
Mm-hmm. So we are city employees. It's not a volunteer department. So El Paso, like to where El Paso, right? There's Horizon, there's Vinton, there's Chaparral, there's I don't know, I think Chapelino, Canutillo. All those little areas, they're county. So people actually volunteer to be firefighters and you get certified. For the city, you actually have to go to school, you have to have college hours, you have to make up your time in the training academy, and it's like if you go to boot camp for the Army. We go there six months and you have to train, and if you qualify and if you pass, then you get out in the line. And being on the line, like we have a new guy that's been on for 3 months. He has to take an exam every month, and if he fails, they fire him. The city doesn't keep you. Like they don't play around, because like once you get with the city, like people are depending on you. So we are a government branch.
Okay. Do usually fire stations have the dogs?
We have like the mascot. They usually keep them. So we're 6 battalion stations. What battalion means is like the sides of El Paso. We have the West Battalion, the Central Battalion, the East Side Battalion. Those are the stations that are bigger, and they have a chief. They have one chief that's in, there's only 6 chiefs because there's only 6 battalion stations, and every chief is the one that carries a dog, because they're the ones people request it through them more than with us.
Okay, I think that's enough questions.
Yeah. Say you request transport to the hospital. In the back we have a little bed. ¿La quieres ver?
No sé.
Mira. So on this side, and this is the bed. So like whenever you have an emergency or say you get really sick or whatever, it's just like a car. We put you here, we put you with your seatbelt, and we transport you over to the hospital. Here we have medications in case you need to stabilize your condition. This is what we use. We have medications in the bags, in the truck, and then this is where we take you into the hospital. This station, we have 2 trucks. The reason we have 2 trucks is because if you see it, it says RP6, that means reserve. So this is an older model. So whenever our truck's not working, we get to use this one, and we're responsible for both trucks. So like for fluids, we're responsible for equipment. You as a driver need to know, I need to know even that light bulb. I need to know that this has this. I need to count these spanners. So if one's missing and I don't report it, then I'm responsible for it and I'll get a write-up. So all this equipment is super important on both trucks. So this truck is just in case our regular truck doesn't work. And then we have this truck. And on this truck, this one's a super cool one. So this is the hose that we connect to the hydrant. If you look at it, it's really big. Thank God I don't have to do this anymore because I'm not tall enough. But the firefighter in the back, they go up there and they connect this to a hydrant. Once they tell me they're ready, then that's when I turn on all the gauges. But also we have bags here that the ambulance has in case the ambulance doesn't get there, we already stabilized. So, and over here, they're working out and legit. But anyway, so this is my pump panel. So I drive, right? I drop off. The captain's getting ready because he's the one that gets in the fire with a firefighter in the back. What I do here is that I activate the pump, and it has to be, if you see there's numbers here. There's numbers to every gate. I need to be conscious of what pressure I have in each line. So if you read it here, there's different discharges.
Excuse me.
There's different discharges here, and that's just a different size that I could use. For example, right here, I could connect the hose. It's kind of hard. So that's why you have these cool things. And then you just put it here, and you open. So in this gate, there's different sizes. So this one is the same as this one, except this one is a 5-inch one and this is a 2.5. So I need to know that this is a 5-inch and that's a 2.5 because that's the different hoses that we have and the different sizes. This truck also carries foam. In this truck, now fire is being fought with foam. That's because the water takes a little bit longer and the foam just suppresses the fire now. But even this, I'm responsible for. So once you come into the gate, like I tell you, we have to, I put preset right here and it'll give me exactly what's the pressure. So of course, depending on my fog nozzle, and that you could write it down because it asks you, I think something what do I use math in? Depending on the nozzle, so say that I'm gonna use a fog nozzle. So for example, mira, allá arriba, that's a solid string. The difference between that one, let me show you over here. So aquí están las dos, mira. So this one right here, this one, these two, this one, and this one, they both go on a hose, right? This one and this one, they go both on a hose. This one is gonna give you así como por decir, if you have a hose at home, right? Your garden hose. If it doesn't have a nozzle, it shoots water really, just straight water, right? So it's pressurized. So this one is that's what's gonna give you that. This one's gonna give you more fog, more like a sprinkler, more open. So when I'm using this one, when I put the hose on this one, I need to know that my pressure is gonna be 80 on a solid. That's because this has more pressure. When I'm gonna use this one, that's when I add 100 PSI. So this one's 100 PSI, and on this one I add 80 PSI. So on my preset is 50 plus 100 and plus 80. So that's addition right there. That's one of the addition problems that we have. Also, we have a 5-inch, and on that one, I have to subtract. So when I put this one, this big hose, I put it right here. When the water comes in from the hydrant, I have to gate down, so I subtract there because that's gonna shoot up my pressure. So the only way that I do that, for say I have this one out, this one, this will shoot up to 200 once I put water, so I just gate down and it'll bring it down to 80. So the math, all the math happens here. And remember, like, people are already going into the structure, so I need to do this like in 2 minutes. So you have to be fast thinking. Of course, connecting all your equipment, being ready. On this truck, we also have the jaws of life. So like, if you are stuck inside a car and it rolls over and you can't open the door, we have the cutters that cut the car, or the spreaders that open the car. But yeah, this is the pump. This one's really cool because like it'll tell you the colors. Like in my head, I've memorized colors more than anything. I know orange is in the front, so I just look for front orange. I know that yellow's on the side, so I look for yellow and red. That's pretty much it with a pump. We also have, once you make a permanent, so like once you're in the job for 5 years, you'll be swinging. Like these guys are all swinging. They're not permanent. That means that they've been on the job long enough, but they haven't promoted. So they'll put them wherever. Like we're missing the guy in the back and we're missing the lieutenant. So they'll fill them up with those guys. They don't get to stay. Once you get to stay, like I'm permanent, I get to have a light. I get to leave my gear here. I get to keep my bed on. I get to keep my own restroom. I get to keep the gym. Like that has my stuff in it. Like this is my house. I get to stay here, and I never drive any other truck if it's not this one. This one's my truck. And then let me see if the captain's there so you guys can meet him. He's the mean guy.
Hi.
Hi.
Say hi.
That's my captain. I drive that guy. Her name's Zoe.
Hi, Zoe.
She's doing an interview for
I'm
school.
Lewis. Yeah, what class is this?
Dr. Green,
Uh-huh.
and I'm in 4th grade,
Uh-huh.
and I'm in the Spanish and English class.
Oh, okay. So what kind of questions are you asking?
I'm asking about what they do mostly in their jobs and what they do like in math.
Okay.
How do I use math and the job? She asked a lot of good questions.
Yeah. Did Jackie answer all those questions for you?
Yes.
Really? Especially about math and doing good in school?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. You see how she applies math, right?
Yeah.
All those handles and everything, all the numbers, and yeah, so you have to be really good in math. So if you want to be like Jackie, you gotta do really good. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah. Did you have any other questions?
No, that's all.
Yeah?
Yeah, I can say hi enough.
Oh, okay. Okay. Did you like the station?
Yes, it's really cool.
Did you see the whole station?
Well, not the whole one, but I really liked it.
Okay. Well, maybe Jackie will take you in some of the areas you haven't seen. Yeah? Did you see the living room?
Yes, I tried.
Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
Kitchen. Did you see where we sleep?
No, I haven't seen it.
Really? It's pretty cool in there. It's like a giant bedroom.
I'll show
Jackie,
you in that one right now.
Yeah? Go see it, see what you think.
Okay.
It was nice seeing you.
Thank you.
He's all nervous.
Own restroom, and I get to decorate it and put all the girls from the gym, and I get to like put Wonder Woman and my dogs and flowers, and I'm super. And then the guys have their own restroom, but they're boring. Like it's all black. So like you see, I have flowers
Yeah.
and pink mats.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks like your mom's apartment, huh?